We begin.
This problem, Microsoft, CloudStrike, BS that everybody else in the blasted world is. Tell you what, was all set up to do everything, and all of a sudden my computer starts giving me issues. So guess what? Yours truly had to reboot, restart, and reconfigure. But that's what happens when you try going live and you try using Microsoft. Well, I think the whole world found out we're vulnerable, all because of one line of code. Truly ridiculous. We're going to go over that. We're going to go over a lot more. This is Frontlines. This is where we tackle everyday trucking industry issues, if I can talk. I've had too much coffee, so I'm going too fast in my mind, but not fast enough in the mouth. We'll fix that today. We're also going to fix people's perception on leasing programs. There's a lot of people out there that seem to have differing opinions on the good, the bad. Stay away from it. Don't do it. Do this. Don't do that. Well, I figured I'd tackle it from the issue head on. There's a story in the news circulating. I'll introduce you to that story. That's what we do here. We talk about news stories that show up in the trucking area. We talk about issues in those stories, and we look for your feedback on exactly how those stories affect you. We actually ask you your opinion. No other news show out there does that. We want to know what you think about the day, the times, and what goes on in trucking. So call our studio, 860-785-3547. Once we talk about the stories, try to get you on and off real quick, give your thoughts, any suggestions, get off the fence, get involved, make a difference. That's what we do here. So if you're watching on my channel, Driving with John, Grumpy Old Trucker, go ahead, go down below, become a subscriber. We are a team, us, me, John, Frank, occasionally other guests. We have a new and interesting guest in the house today we're going to introduce you to. Take a moment, subscribe to our channels, like the video. Definitely come back every week on Saturday, usually at 11 o'clock, Microsoft dependent. We are here talking about the front lines of trucking. We give you the information, you take it, you process it, and give us your thoughts. Send us an email at thatstruckingnews@outlook.com. Send us an email at thatstruckingnews@outlook.com. You have stories, we have opinions. We invite you into the show. We are going to do just that. Invite the other guests that make up our normal crew and get the party started. So without further ado, let's bring in our panel one by one. Driving with John, the man with the plan, and 60 seconds worth of short to entertain you. He's got thousands of them. How you doing, my friend? I am John.
Good,
well, I am Boss Man. You are John. I think you're making that.
I'd like to introduce myself to everybody. My name is Bob. Don't be confused. So, yeah, I can entertain in 60 seconds, but it only takes me 11. All right.
Thank you. Is that what she said? Yeah. And you old man, you're sitting there laughing hysterically. You're supposed to be the grumpy old trucker. What's up with my grumpy codger laughing? Come on now.
No one do I owe anything to. It's not free.
No one do I owe. Did you turn Indian somehow? No one. Oh, to. No, you. I like messing with him.
I want to know where my Jeep is. That's what I want to know.
No.
All right, guys.
There you go.
Hijack my show.
There he is, right there. There he is.
Let's not hijack my show. We have some interesting guests on the show with us today. Those of you who have been with us know that these two crazy guys next to me are here everywhere. We
over
we
here,
come and
not
go
over there.
together as a team. We are bringing in an interesting face, somebody that is not new to the industry, but is new to the show, and he's going to play an important part in our second story today. I'd like to introduce to you a fellow known as Highway Junkies. He also has his own show. He's running incognito because he's probably indisposed at the moment, but we do have audio with this fellow. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great.
All right. You want to give us a little quick 30-second rundown on your channel, Highway Junkies? What is it you got going on with that?
It's basically I'm trying to bring back the old school ways of truck driving, how it used to be.
Great, great. Well, I look forward to seeing it. I know the people on the show will certainly give you a look up. If you take a moment, go to his channel, Highway Junkies. Give him some love, give him some support. Check out his videos, and certainly don't forget to leave a like. We are going to come back with you momentarily there. What name do you want me to refer to you? I can say Highway Junkies. I can say Little John. I can say it however you'd like.
I go by Little John. That's fine.
I go by whatever fits you. That's fine. We have
I go by
another
John.
guest. We have another guest trying to make an appearance, but you know what? Northern Alberta, their internet is worse than Microsoft. So if he decides to come back on, I will entertain bringing him on and letting him join the show. Our
Hang on, let me get my can.
Right, there you go. Our friend from the north, our friend from the north, Poet. This man has been in trucking over 50 years. He has a wealth of knowledge. I welcome his input. If he can get the internet long enough, I'll bring you back on, my friend. In the meantime, without further interruption, I would like to kind of give a rundown as to what I'm talking about on my first story. Now, I don't have any graphics for this because that was part of what I was trying to do when all this stuff went down to begin with. But let me just set the stage, okay? If you think industry is immune to chaos with a major IT outage, think again. Just as business across the globe faced disruptions this past Friday, yesterday as a fact, with financial services, medical offices, even TV broadcasters were shut down and grounded. Our roads were also affected. A staggering failure allegedly stemming from a botched update at cybersecurity giant CrowdStrike left planes grounded and air travel in disarray. CrowdStrike's CEO, George Kurtz, quickly got on and tried to reassure everyone yesterday with this.
All right, George, I know your company very well. Our viewers know it too. How did this happen?
This was not a code update. This was actually an update of content. And what that means is there's a single file that drives some additional logic on how we look for bad actors. We identified this very quickly and rolled back this particular content file. Obviously, many organizations are impacted, and many of them are beginning to recover. Many systems can be rebooted, and we've fixed the issue, so the systems are coming up and running. To be clear, it was not a cyber attack. It wasn't anything related to that. It was a content bug or update that we sent out, that we identified, and we rolled back.
So just that quickly, things went from bad to worse yesterday. CrowdStrike's CEO said it wasn't a security problem, but you have to wonder, how long is it until something like this disrupts and does this again? One line of code, one thing, one small problem, and even though they beta tested all this prior to actually trying to release it, this one line ground everything to a halt. This just isn't a blip on the radar. Experts are calling this one of the largest outages in history, with their services affecting not only CrowdStrike, but Azure as well. They had other problems. And I mean, this is a lot bigger than people think. I mean, a lot of IT is what runs our industry. And John, I understand you were personally affected to a small degree, to the degree that everyone can understand. What do you know about how it affected your company?
Well, the crazy part is everybody's like, what's this got to do with trucking? Well, I'll tell you right now, our entire system that we run on, basically it worked in the truck, but communications between the truck and corporate were gone. They couldn't see anything that I saw. They had no idea where I was. There was no communication at all. They couldn't see my hours of service, none of that. So it was
Right.
almost like running in the Wild West yesterday.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I personally didn't notice anything, but you know what? I mean, to each their own. Everybody's set up differently. I'm not going to tout anything about my brother personally because I haven't really said anything to him personally about putting him, his name out on my show. But I noticed yesterday, my brother, who is in IT and different other respects as well, simply said this. I mean, why is it that we're so dependent on technology these days that people have lost sight with the basic functions of life? Come up with a backup plan. Have something at the ready should something like this happen, and be able to function without a computer for however long is necessary. A computer, a cash register, whatever. I mean, that, for normal businesses like us, I mean, as much as we pick on midlife, damn it, actually grab an atlas, learn how to read a map, learn how to navigate, get things done, drop the technology. Our reliance on this stuff, if yesterday hasn't proved anything, says we need to wake up. What do you think, Grumpy?
Well, coming from the factor that I actually am a computer technician and have worked on computers and technology, stuff like that, that is a very big hassle especially whenever it affects us in the trucking industry. When our systems go down, we can't communicate without calling to get any kind of response from our dispatch or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it is a big hassle.
It is. It can be a big worry. I mean, because now, as it stands, I mean, cyber attacks and cyber hackers now understand an even easier way to cripple someone. Our enemies have an understanding of a vulnerability now. So, I mean, why don't people wake up to this? I mean, if it's that easy to shut down an entire, I mean, I was going to say a moment ago, this could infect an entire country, but no, this went worldwide. This wasn't just the U.S. This was worldwide. I mean, Little John, what are your thoughts? I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with IT or computer technologies, but were you at all personally affected by this at all?
Yes. You couldn't get a hold of anybody yesterday at my company. I waited, 4 hours waiting to pay for a lumper.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that last
Because
transaction before you leave the top,
receive.
you can't get it cleared. Yeah, that sucks.
They didn't receive the email.
Wow. Yep, that's incredible. I mean, what are your thoughts, Little John, before I move on? What are your thoughts about trying to get past everyday tactics we now use technology for? What are your thoughts on basically getting by and getting back to basics? I mean, if you were to prepare for the next time this happens, what would you say would be one of your recommendations?
I don't know. I'm so used. I mean, I've got all the technology in here, but I still rely I still rely on the old ways, with your atlas. And
you and midlife would definitely go backwards on that one. You guys would have too much fun. Driving with John.
I remember when.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
I
go
remember
ahead.
when you used to have to stop at a payphone to get directions to a shipper or receiver.
There you go.
And
See,
go
ahead, Little John, finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
See, before we get too far, Little John's got just a couple years under me. I've got almost 24. He's got almost 22 in.
Yeah.
So,
I was going
and
to highlight more on his background on story 2. So,
my bad.
Yeah, hadn't forgotten much about that. Driving with John, what do you think? I'll here to refer to you for the rest of this show as Big John. What are your thoughts on whether we're moving too fast? Do you think we're honestly going a little too fast on this IT and this whole reliance on technology? Do you think it's time we stop and rethink this? What do you think?
You sound like an old man sitting on a porch. Dude, technology's not going to stop. I don't care what you think, what I think. No. But here's the thing. What we did learn from this is when we rely on one company, then guess what? In the world we live in, hackers are a real thing. If Microsoft can bring all of that down in one day, I mean, we need to have backup systems. We need to have backup companies. We need to diversify our tech. We can't be reliant on one company all the time. So no, I don't think it'll ever slow down for sure.
Well, if it does nothing, and I was thinking about this last night as I was getting ready to shut down myself. If this does nothing but open your eyes, I mean, me and another guest who's not on the show, we had an interesting dialogue the other day about the difference between autonomy, electric, whether they're all diesel, whether they're all electric, all this, all that aside, okay? As much and as right as he is, the whole concept of technology and autonomy should now be looked at with very skeptical eyes. And comment in the chat if you agree with me on this. I want to know your take. I'm about to get the comments, so we'll get to all that. But think about this. Our reliance on this technology and this automation and this thought of putting driverless trucks on the road. Should we wait? Should we think about this? If this can happen before the reliance is what it is, think about if you have hundreds of trucks out there and one line code shuts everything down. If you're that four-wheeler driving behind a truck that's doing 55 miles an hour and all of a sudden, boom, it hits the brakes, along with every other truck in front of it, think how panicking that would be. You know, I think we need to slow down and take a better, harder look. Grumpy, what do you think?
Well, I'll be honest with you. You know, I've been thinking that ever since they started this rigmarole with the autonomous C trucks and the electric trucks, and even with the cars. I mean, you know, these battery operated Duracell cars, you know. Yeah. I mean, anybody could hack into that system some way, somehow, and it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a catastrophe. I guarantee you. They're just waiting for it to happen.
Yep, exactly indeed. Well, let me go through some comments here. We're getting kind of behind on that, so let me look at a couple real quick here. And YouTube is about planning, not missing deadlines. Tom, I fully agree with you. And in my case, sometimes even the best laid plans can get missed because, you know what? Updates only work when they work. And in this case, we see now why they didn't. CloudStrike broke a major rule. Never do an update on Friday. Good point, my friend. And Poet's saying hello. So he's trying to communicate with us. God bless you. At least you have some internet, but I don't think his is supporting his streaming. So back to paper. I agree fully. We have another new face in the house. Alicia, the IT is just a bunch of pooey to me because it goes down. Once it goes down, it's hard to get back to anyone and anything. Get by. Yes, I fully agree. Thank you for your contribution, my dear. Alex M., hello, happy Saturday, and we're glad to have you in our show today. We are certainly rocking and rolling. So, yes, if you guys want to call in, give us a call, 860-785-3547. We certainly welcome your input. Continuing through with 7Cs, good evening. Glad you could join us. Good afternoon, however you want to word it. Sorry, just can't see a reliance on electric trucks anytime soon. Yes, autonomous trucks use multiple redundant systems. Yes, But even these updates would affect stuff like the redundant systems too. See,
Can I comment on that comment?
you may go right ahead. I got a feeling.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, redundant systems. You don't think the banking system has a redundant system? You don't think cell phone systems have redundant systems? I'm telling you right now, okay?
Yeah.
In the world that we live in with hackers and everything going on, you get an autonomous truck out there, one really creative hacker could literally take down our infrastructure for hours or days.
Yeah, it could.
And if you don't have a driver in the truck, it even gets worse. Now you got a truck, a piece of equipment sitting on a highway with nobody around that can to move it.
Right.
So I understand what you're.
problem.
I understand what Midlife's trying to say there, but there is no fail-safe way to do an autonomous truck. There are going to be failures, and when they fail, people are going to die. So
I want to.
1 second, Frank. To fully support your point, John, picture this. You've got a row of autonomous trucks going down the road, and that update happens like yesterday. Now, in this case, normally they'd send an update back to the truck over the wire, and it would reboot, start up, everybody'd be happy. Okay. In this case, however, caller, just bear with me. We have an issue where, or you can hang up. If you're going to call the show, you're going to hear me, and you're going to hear what's going on. All right? Hang tight. Make sure you reduce your player and just listen to me. If you're going to call the show and hang up, that's not going to do anybody any good. So I can't even see who it was that was calling, so I can't even bring you back up. Please be patient. To my point, though, this restaurant here at this truck stop I'm at, they had that same problem. They were affected by this update. Now, the problem is not everybody can just simply reboot and restart. Some of these updates have to be inserted and fixed manually. So you get this row of autonomous trucks, and all of a sudden can't get these updates. You've actually got to send someone on the road, a road crew, out, do the update, fix the problem, and get it started. So I don't know if that was the direction you were going, Frank, but certainly.
Not really. Grumpy's going to say something, though, but the factor of it is, okay, this was a movie made years ago called Hackers, and it was based on a true story of a young boy that actually infiltrated some serious stuff. And it is very possible even today, even though with all the securities and stuff that's out there. I mean, it's not hacker proof. There's no way.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Nothing is, unfortunately. Lease purchase deals. We're moving on to story 2. Lease purchase deals. Some people feel it's an opportunity. Others feel like it's a trap. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau recently held a marathon session diving deep into murky waters of predatory lease purchase agreements. For those of you who've been burned by these deals, what are you laughing at? All right, you guys are going bye-bye for a minute. I don't know what you two are doing. I'm trying to make a live show, and you two are sitting here laughing. Is this a comedy show or what? I'm just, moving on to the story. At the end of the day, you might find yourself owing more than you make. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau reviewed over 40 examples and highlighted sneaky tactics used, like confusing contracts that flip-flop between lease and loan, making it impossible for drivers to know what they're signing up for. One of the fellas in this panel called out a broad default provision that put truckers in a no-win situation. Imagine being asked to break hours of service regulations, and then when you refuse, you're suddenly hit with default. Talk about being caught between a rock and a hard place. Now, one person on this current panel that I have with me today, I believe might have some experience in this, and that would be Little John. One of the great benefits is that he has had some personal experience in the lease program, as it were. So I'd like to give you an opportunity, Little John, to kind of explain to people briefly what your experience has been in trucking if you would. If it involves lease purchase programs, let us know your experience. What have you seen happen, and what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I'm currently a lease now.
Mhm.
I'm under a lease.
Mhm.
I'm a lease purchase right now.
Okay.
But I've had other ones where it's for the company. It's not for the driver.
Right.
It's to
Okay.
benefit the company rather than because some of them you'll never pay the truck off,
Yeah. Okay.
and they make it that way so you either stay or you trade that truck in for another one
Mm-hmm.
to keep on moving.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there are ones out there that the dollar buyout ones, those are the biggest scams,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Just so the audience understands, how many years have you been in trucking?
Me, 22.
22 years. Okay. So
Yeah.
you've been around. You've seen quite a bit of stuff. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, all three of these stories we're talking about in today's show are all linked in the description below. Please take a moment, go look at those stories, educate yourself, because what we're talking about today, in addition to what we're dealing with and his experience, I'm also going to give a couple of good tips to kind of keep yourself out of hot water and hopefully help you guys out. What are your thoughts, Big John? What do you think about lease purchase and what the Consumer Affairs Protection Agency is talking about? Hold on, man. You must have muted yourself again. Yeah.
No, you muted me. All right. So I gotta respond. I'm sorry. I gotta respond. I can't let this one go.
What?
Somebody in the comment section, somebody named Tom from Midlife something or other,
Yeah.
called me Chicken Little. But if I remember that story correctly, wasn't he right once? Doesn't it only take once to be right? I'm just saying.
Yeah, it only takes once. Yeah, I was just thinking about looking at that comment. I was going to raise it because I'm sitting here scanning the comments as we go through.
That's what I wanted to say earlier. So, as for leasing, I've on your show. On your show, I have talked about this until I'm blue in the face. If you're going to a mega carrier, that lease is 100% geared for them to make money, not for you to make money. Yes, midlife, we're all adults. If you sign on a dotted line, it's your responsibility to know what you're getting yourself into, 100%. But that being said, when a brand new trucker comes into this industry, they don't understand the industry. And they're taken advantage of by these mega carriers, 100%. Okay? Yeah. Not that all lease programs are bad. There are good lease programs out there. Read the small print, talk to a lawyer, always get professional advice before you sign something, guys, because the last thing you want to do is be signed into something, and then at the end of the road, you find out you owe thousands of dollars and you didn't make any money. That can happen and does happen daily. So.
It does, indeed. We found out our mystery caller was Alicia. That was your sister, I believe, Frank. So sorry about losing service, but would have loved to.
Can I add something to what John was saying?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, please.
And I agree with you, John, on that. You know, if have someone look over that contract, because they throw stuff in there all the time that even lawyers can't understand.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, you've got to do your due diligence on the company you're going to as far as their lease, because almost every company out here has some kind of a lease purchase, whether it's the rent to own, whether so always have someone to be able to understand that contract.
Someone just commented, "Is that the young lad that hacked the Pentagon?" You want to answer that?
I believe it's the one that I was talking about, that they made the movie about. And he wasn't allowed to touch any kind of computers or any kind of computer devices until he reached a certain age.
Didn't the government hire him after that?
Probably.
Probably
I think
as
they
a consultant or something like that. Yeah, we do a wide variety 7Cs. I think you've pretty much figured that out. Normally I have a theme, but I had to cover the reason why we started so late. And originally, lease purchase was my original premise for the whole show. But I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to tackle it from a different direction. And the story coming up, I'll explain when it comes up. But yeah, normally as a rule, I have a theme with these stories. But hey, we all live and learn. And that's pretty much the whole basis on today's show. We live and learn.
Hey,
We learn
we
by
can
IT failures. Huh?
we can combine it and say we can hack the lease purchase.
Back to the driver's favor. There you go.
You got a new guest down there that wants to join.
Why?
Interesting.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Hang on. Maybe I saw that wrong.
No. Highway.
Oh, he
Junkie
dropped out.
lost-
Sorry.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
lost.
he
his,
dropped out.
lost his connection for some reason.
Yeah, his internet may be kind of horrible in the area.
Yep. Well, Little John, if you want to try joining us back, we'll bring you back on. I have no problem with that. In the meantime, Midlife says they are adults, they are business owners, they are owner operators. Shouldn't they know what they're signing? That's part of the tips that I'm going to suggest here in just a moment. But good point. Yes, they should. It's called the Never Never Plan. Okay, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Just because someone's a good truck driver doesn't mean they will be a good business owner. Agreed. Trucker Kirsty, agreed. Glad you're with us watching. I'm glad you could join us. All right. Well, you know what? Lease purchase, it's not for everybody. You know what? Comes down to those tips. Let me mention what I think people should do. Research the carrier you're looking into, okay? Investigate the motor carrier offering the lease purchase program. Look for reviews and testimonials and any red flags, such as complaints. Reviews can tell you so much about whether or not you're getting into troubled waters long before you even sign the forms. Check online forums, social media groups, and the Better Business Bureau for any negative feedback. Clarify maintenance and operational responsibilities in said contract. Determine who's responsible for maintenance, repairs, to what degree, too. That can be confusing. Sometimes they'll do only certain things in maintenance programs like tires and PMs, whereas major repairs, they won't spell it out for you. And then wait until all of a sudden you have a problem like a water pump goes out or whatever, and all of a sudden you get hit with, oh, you've got to do A, you've got to do B, and it's unknowns that will get you every time. Some of these lease agreements make you responsible for the very expensive stuff, and they only help you with the minor stuff. So negotiate the terms and responsibilities in advance before considering a signature. And lastly, seek out alternatives. It's not always the best idea for people, especially to Midlife's credit. If you don't know the basics of doing a decent business and setting yourself up for success to begin with, lease purchase may not be your thing. It may not even be a thing to even consider. You may be best off buying cash if you can do it, or on a finance agreement you can handle, and stay away from lease purchase. So sometimes the best choice is not always the easiest one. And a lot of times companies will paint it as lease purchase is the way to go. It's a great thing. But as Bill John said a while ago, and to his credit, he's back on the show, to his credit, saying a while ago, these people will set these things up to favor them, and you'll never know it. And it's purposely designed that way because they are the holder of the asset and the title. So they are going to make it work for them. You are the last thing on their criteria in terms of benefit. You're just saving them the option, and you're saving them the money. So you got to know that going in.
Grumpy wants to say something.
Go ahead, Grumpy. I was just going to ask. Go ahead.
Grumpy has done this lease purchase twice. course, they've been walkaways, which is
Okay.
the way to go if you're going to get your foot in the water and try it. That's all I can say to that part.
Right.
But let me tell you what, the best thing I can suggest is plan on living in that truck pretty much the whole time you're going to be buying it, because you're not going to have much of a home life, because when you go home, you get behind on your payments.
Yes.
You get little paychecks.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, what the heck? This is not right. You're going to be really, really ticked off when you start getting small paychecks.
That will also be true of just trucking in general. Even if you're a company driver, you can still fall behind. But lease purchase makes it a little easier because you have a larger chunk of bills. And yeah, once you're behind, it takes you forever to get caught back up.
Yes, I agree.
Yep.
But the same factor, what I'm trying to hint at here is the factor that you're going to be able, what the heck? You just threw John over there. Fine, let him talk.
Well, no, keep it going. Keep your point. Dreaming.
Anyhow, what I'm trying to say is basically, I've given it a try twice. I failed it both times, not because of me directly, but because I have a family life that I'm trying to take care of. I try to bounce things out. And by the time I have all my stuff coming out for my truck, I don't have much of a paycheck. And it's hard to live off of that, especially whenever basically I'm having to pay for the fuel. The fuel's what hits you the hardest, besides the truck payment.
Yep.
So, you know,
that's true if you're an owner, operator, or a lease guy. But I have something to add to this, by the way. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I agree with what he was saying, but it depends. Even if you own the truck, fuel is always your biggest expense. So two things really quick. Midlife said, where did I see that? Stop typing, Midlife. Oh yes. He keeps putting comments up there, and I lost the comment. He says that you should learn more about trucking before you learn more about the business before you buy a truck or good. 100% agree. That is probably the biggest mistake I see that I've talked to these guys. They're brand new into trucking. They're coming into trucking. They know nothing about trucking. They don't know anything about the business, and they're signing a lease option. They don't even understand what they're going to be doing as a living.
Right.
And they're now a business owner. I mean, you got to learn the business before you become the business owner. That's how it works. That was one thing I wanted to say. The other thing is, another thing that you might want to look out for with lease purchase is kind of a niche-y thing, but if you run Reaper, there's two ways that they normally do it. Either you're going to buy the Reaper fuel and that'll be the end of it, or you're going to have a trailer payment and you're going to buy the Reaper fuel. And that is a fact. Know that you're going to buy the Reaper fuel. Once in a while, you'll find one that doesn't, but normally it's 100% on you. So there's more fuel expense that you know that you have to equate for as a Reaper driver. So
yes, indeed. Poets.
I've had a few
hold on, Little John. Poet said I did it when I was 21. Lasted 8 months. Took 10 years to pay off what I owed, so my parents would lose their house. Yeah, it's not like today. I mean, I wouldn't even dream of that with the price of real estate today, but sorry you had to deal with that, Poet. But, you know, it just brings up a point. Like I said, make sure you know what you're signing, because once you sign it, it's a legal contract. It's a lease, for God's sakes. It, as much as, you know, CFPB is looking into, you know, ways to get rid of predatory leases, you know, until they convene all this stuff, figure it all out, make any changes. You still have to be careful. You got to be very careful about what you sign, what you say, what you commit to, because it's like any legal contract. It's there. It's on paper. You agree. You know, you can be sued, and you don't want to run into a point where your, you know, parents are getting threatened to lose your house and all that kind of stuff. That's really, really iffy. Little John, I'll give you the last word on this topic. What did I miss anything with my recommendations, or got anything to add to it?
No, you hit everything pretty much on the head.
Yeah, okay. The situation you're in right now, I mean, you feel comfortable with it? I mean, only you know that, but I mean, you know, you've been in it long enough.
It's got its issues, but you have to work through them.
I was going to say, I mean, to Midlife's credit, I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't need to be signing the lease. You agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Says need.
I
Not
don't
a
think
real
they should
smart
offer lease
Yeah.
purchase to brand new cars.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't believe in that because they could be taking advantage of that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Seven Seas Transport says if you can't afford to take time off, you ain't ready. Good point. You got to have the money in the bank. You got to have it figured out.
That's true whether you're buying a truck, leasing a truck.
Yeah,
If you're gonna go out and do your own thing in trucking, if you don't have a nice nest egg and you're not paying yourself a salary, you're doing yourself a major injustice.
Yeah.
Major injustice.
Makes a good point. No money, no credit. Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to goal setting and prioritizing. You know, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't have any money, you're not going to be able to get any credit. You're really not going to last long. So more to her point. Good point.
This is kind of going to be touching a little bit with that, but as a former actual business owner, when I had my computer store, it's basically the same concept with the trucking. I had to make sure that I had money set aside to pay for merchandise coming in, pay my bills and all that before I could actually make a payment to myself. But I would always try to make a way to make a payment to myself to have money to pay my bills at home, which was kind of a crunch at times because it balances itself out one time. Next time you're in the hole, it's just up and down.
Exactly. Yep. So Poet says even 5 years he didn't know jack. Well, you know what? I'm 13 years into business. I'll tell you what, I still feel like I don't know enough. It's the whole reason I started the show. You know what? I don't know it all. There's a lot about this industry I could learn and hence pass on to you. And at the same time, doing what I'm doing, I'm learning so much from you guys, so, truly, how long do you have to be in it to really claim like you're comfortable that you know it all? And who's really ready?
I want to tell you what an old school guy told me when I first started driving. My thing was, and I've always done this in life, find the guy that's been doing it a very long time and ask him his advice constantly. Yes. One of the best things that a guy told me one time, he said he'd been driving like 45 years or some crazy high number like that. And he said, after 45 years, I still don't know everything. Always be learning. You'll never, ever be perfect or an expert at trucking because it's always changing. It's always evolving. So if anybody ever tells you they do know everything about trucking, their ego is bigger than their knowledge. So
2 more comments come up that illustrate your point entirely. Rick Miner says, and new face in town, glad to have you on the show, my friend. Just now getting into the business, he says, I don't know anything, and I'm humble enough to admit that. Good truck driver. You will last a while, my friend. I hope you do. Poet then adds, I've in it for 54 years in and still learning. So, yes, that man can tell you some stuff now. And last but not least, Midlife says the key is learning about the business, not just driving the truck. Hence the term steering wheel holder. Yes. And comment. I'm going to keep talking about it. Rick Ed said, no, I had a trainer last week who was dangerous. Well, tell somebody. We don't need bad trainers out there because that's what will stop it. We've covered that before on our previous lives. Subscribe to my channel, subscribe to John, subscribe to Frank. Go look at our previous shows. We talked about that. It is great information. So I want to move on to the last more important story, and that's what's going on with our future. Let's talk real briefly about policies. You know what? Currently, the Biden administration, I'm not feeling it. And a lot of people probably agree with me. But put in the comments your thoughts looking forward. It could be Biden still here. It could be Trump. But those are the 2 names that are circulating. And I know this because couple of nights ago, we had the Republican National Convention. And think about it. When it comes down to what's going to happen, a lot can be learned from the convention itself. So, at that convention, we got some heavy hitters stepping up. You had Sean O'Brien, leader of the Teamsters. He gave one hell of a speech. We had J.D. Vance, and we had a couple of other people that were real hard hitters that were up there talking crap and making it seem like Trump was the best thing since sliced bread. Now, I'm not giving up on an opinion right now, But I do think a lot can be said for change. Their Freight Affairs panel is throwing their weight behind the former President Trump with JD Vance, talking about proud blue collar guys like you and me, and they're really putting us up on a pedestal. All right. They're teaming up on key legislation like the Railway Safety Act, responding to the disaster in East Palestine, Ohio, to make our railways safer. That was a big deal, and that really stopped things. Meanwhile, Senator Cruz is sitting there calling out the current administration's failures and fighting to protect our rights by giving us more affordable gas-powered options and vehicles. So all in all, the Republican National Convention was, at best, pardon the expression, a shit show. But a lot can be learned from it. But quite a few questions also were raised out of that. I mean, think about it. How critical do you think affordable fuel is? And I mentioned that because of one of Trump's key things. 3 words: drill, baby, drill. That's one of his day one policies. I mean, think about it. So how critical do you think fuel is to your operations? And going forward, what kind of an effect do you think it's going to have on trucking itself? Big John, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be a game changer, or do you think it's going to take a long time before we even notice anything?
Well, you and I actually,
you got Biden in or Trump, either way.
You and I actually had a conversation about this on the phone. So I'm going to bring up a point that most people don't think of. Yes, when you get into office, it takes forever for things to change. Nothing happens overnight. But the one thing that you do have to think about is when morale and the economy is where it is, a change, whether you think it's for the good or for the worse, is going to automatically either boost or decline sales in the retail market, which will directly affect trucking. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't mean the economy is going to make a major change, but buying habits will make a major change because the morale will go up or down. Now, depending on which side of this you're on, that could be good or a bad thing, depending on who gets elected. So how is that for vanilla as you can get?
There you go. Vanilla, white shirt. What can I tell you?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Who, me? Oh,
yeah, you.
Now you want to call on the grump. I see how you are. Well, just like John said, it's going to take a while, even after whoever we get in there as president next, to get things straightened out. Well, okay, something similar to that. I'm sorry. Well, anyhow, it takes at least 6 months to a year after a new president comes in to even start really getting things turned around. And then it takes a while for that to get into operations and going. But, as far as like what you brought up with the drill baby drill thing, if we would quit relying on foreign oil,
please tell me that was his internet.
It would be a lot cheaper. Huh? Who's what? What's wrong with my internet? Hello?
He's frozen. I think that's his.
Who's internet. Frozen?
John's frozen.
What?
His signal crapped out.
Oh, there you go. She moved a little bit.
You had a momentary interruption in your T-Mobile, dude. Anyway, well, more to the point, they were talking about fuel, but here's another big thing that comes up in not only the convention, but in trucking circles. What about all this reliance on this emission stuff that keeps going? All this stuff that's being pushed out of California. Do you think that, and I'll leave this one to you, Little John, if you'd like to pipe up on this. Do you think a huge change could be seen coming up with all this emission stuff? DPF and all these regulations and stuff. Do you think he could actually make a difference in that? Would you like to see that?
No. DEF is going to stay regardless. So people need to get used to that.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Even though it's not good for the environment.
You kind of only partially came through on that last comment. You want to repeat that, Lil John?
I said,
Yeah, I think he's having issues.
California will never do away with the death, even though they say it's sad.
Well, yeah, I know, but a lot I think can be said for the speed at which they're pushing all this stuff through. That's my only concern. Now, I don't know if Trump will make a difference on any of that, but it'd certainly be nice to know he could have an impact. Might not be the ideal one we all want. You notice
What's
the
he
comment
saying?
like Biden will step out of the
Oh
race.
yeah.
I don't know about that. It would be nice to say, but
Actually,
hey.
I saw that comment earlier, and I
Yeah.
would really want to like call him and ask him what he means by that, because I didn't get the press release. You know,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yep.
Then again, I don't have the red phone to the White House like he does. So
Right, I know,
maybe.
right? Ricky says, you know it's game over when the Teamsters team up with the conservatives. Yeah, well, Teamsters will go anywhere where there's money. So, you know, I could say a lot about the Teamsters. They have a lot going on, but I will say one thing. They are pointed. And if it's money in the game, you can bet Sean O'Brien's gonna be right up somebody's butt on that one. He says Poet says he watched the RNC. I'd sooner Trump Vance than Barack Biden Harris. Canadians for Trump. Good to know, my friend. I'm glad you're batting 1,000 on that one. Somebody earlier commented that he thought, yeah, Ricky, same comment. He said Trump administration is going to take back the industry Q2. Yeah, so even he understands it's going to take some time. He's going to continue the construction of the pipeline before we see a difference. Yeah, that by itself, the pipeline, that'll make a difference in 2 to 4 years because it's going to take a while to finish it, get all that stuff set up. So the effects from something like that will take a while. And he was getting a lot of flack when he was in office, when that was even a thing. So he's still got to fight on his hands with that. But I fully agree with what you're saying on that.
Yeah, the biggest reason he was getting a lot of flack on that is because he was crossing into native borders that belonged to the Native Americans. They weren't real thrilled about it.
I'd like to see Poet's point actually come to fruition. I'd like to see it become a reality. But I really think he's going to have a lot under his belt. CARB would be nice to snap and as he put it, surf, get rid of it. But I don't think he's going to have the full legal ground. See, that's not something you can just executive order away. You have to go through a lot of processes, and there's a lot to CARB. So you can't just snap your fingers and make it go away. There's a lot to it. So that, nice as it would be, I think it's going to take a little while. Last comment I'll read here real quick. I'm a Southern boy. I ain't paying no union dues. Yep, I'm right there with you.
Let me say one more thing about this.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're not.
I'm not going to bring up the comment. I don't want you to bring up the comment. But you know, whether you fall on one side or the other, one thing that you know is that we send way too much money to other countries. We need to put that money back in us. And I don't care if you're on the blue side, on the red side, on the purple side. I don't care if you're on the pink side. Whatever side you're on, you got to know that that money has to take care of us first. Because if you're not good at home, you're not good anywhere. So I don't care where you fall politically. If you can't agree with that statement, then we have bigger issues here. So.
I was going to direct this toward one side of the aisle, but I'm going to ask the question in vain anyway. How much do you as a trucker, and put it in the comments if you want, how much do you as a trucker actually trust that the Republican platform is better than the one the Democrats have? How much do you trust that it's actually going to have a positive difference? Little John, what are your thoughts? Are you concerned one way or the other, or what do you think?
I don't think either party is for truckers, like they say.
All right. Good to know. Good to know.
Hey, we're the bottom feeder, even though we keep moving.
Yeah, I hear you. What about you, Grumpy? What do you think? Do you trust that either Trump or Biden, either one in office, has anything positive to add in say, the next 4 years? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the factor of it is, while we had Trump in there before, he was actually trying his darndest to keep us truckers going and trying to help us. So, yeah, I believe, honestly, right now, the best way to go is the Republican Party on that, because they seem to be for us.
Right.
But in 20 years, may flip around again. Who knows?
John, you want to respond to Poet? He's asking, is EPA a federal thing? I mean, I think he's asking that because of our conversation on CARB. So
it's a federal agency, and yes, it is. So, but about politics, guys, it's this simple. There is nobody for us as Americans or us as Canadians. They're for themselves. They're for who's going to line their pockets the most. And I know there are Trump people out there that are diehard Trump people, and I know there are people that die hard against Trump. All of them, every single one of them, are out for what's best for them, just like we're out for what's best for us. If you think any differently than that, you're naive. And yes, give it a thumbs up right there. See that thumbs up? Do the thumbs up
exactly.
there. I didn't do that on purpose, but hey.
Hey, it worked. It worked nonetheless. Well, I mean, think about it. Whether you're a pro red side or pro blue side, you've got to have worries and you've got to have concerns. So, question to close out the show with, and before I do, I'm going to disclaimer this whole show with just, hey, look, I am not going to laden every single show from here to the election with Trump this, Biden that. This is one of the few shows where I'm actually going to cover only if the need is news related. So I'm not going to be a political channel. I'm not going to be an election channel. I'm not going to be your go-to source for Trump versus Biden. It's just not going to happen. But this is one of those things where, looking ahead, we need to actually think for ourselves. We need to get educated. We got to get informed. We need to think before we act. And that's the reason I covered today. But going forward, whatever side of the aisle you're looking at, what are your concerns? What weighs heavily on your mind in terms of thinking about an election and thinking about a possibility? What to you is the biggest thing that will make a decision for you? Little John, what do you think?
Sorry, it was cutting out.
When you're looking at an election coming up, when you're looking at decisions that could affect trucking, what is the thing that weighs most heavily on your mind as you're going into this fall, looking ahead?
Well, since I pay for fuel, my thing is fuel.
I think your signal was cutting in and out. Did I hear you right by saying you're concerned about fuel prices?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. What about you, Grumpy? What's most heavy on your mind in terms of trucking and the upcoming elections? What are you more concerned about to the degree you lose sleep?
Me, I'm actually for the factor that I want to see it happen to where, they'll start changing things as far as, like we discussed on Wednesday's show with that Chevron stuff, and start kind of helping us as drivers out here to take this crap off our trucks. So I'm hoping that might get into work some way, somehow.
Well, you don't know. I mean, like Poet said a minute ago, EPA is a federal thing, so maybe he can have a positive difference. Maybe he can make an effect. Don't know. I mean, anything is possible. And if his first term didn't prove that, I don't know what is. But Poet says, too bad he couldn't run a third term. Well, constitutionally, he's only allowed twice. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if he can make a big difference in this upcoming term. John, what about you? In terms of what makes you lose sleep at night, what is it that you're most concerned about that actually would make a big difference on you deciding one way or the other?
Well, first and foremost, I can't give you one. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to give you three.
Go ahead.
You know me. I'm always a little extra. And so I'm going to have to give you three. Okay. First of all, I don't lose sleep at night because I have Jesus Christ. So I don't worry about all that. But
Amen. I don't have that iPhone thing going on.
That's my number one. My number two is immigration. Because, like I said before, I'm worried about us here. The more people that flood over a border, creates more of a problem for us. Not that I'm not a racist person. I think people that come in legally, heck, I open my arms, come on in. But
Yes.
if you're not coming in legally, I have a problem with that. My number
Mhm.
3, and I'm not putting Jesus is obviously first, but the other 2 not in any order. My number 3 is obviously what's going to help me, and we need to get our economy back on track in trucking and as a whole, so that we're not, yes, we gained more income, but we also pay 4 times as much for goods. So somewhere that needs to flip backwards again. So maybe my income doesn't need to come up, but maybe goods need to come down, or vice versa. I don't care which or the other, but I need to be able to feed my family. That's important.
Well, that's the strange part. Is every time wages go up, everything else goes up. So it's a up down, and does no good.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. Whether you're pro-Republican or whether you're pro-Democrat, either way, someone has to start waking up to the fact that if you cripple the trucking industry, you're crippling the world. I've said it on other channels, and I will still stand by it here. Okay? If you stop trucks, you stop the world. Without us, you can't get it done. So, a couple more comments coming in, and we'll see what's being said here. Technically, a president can serve 10 years, but do you realize the absolute CF that has to go on for that? I mean, yeah, I can see what he's saying, but...
Actually, midlife, I wish midlife was on here, because you can actually serve, believe it or not, you can actually serve 11 years and 11 months.
Well, depending
actually,
on how
technically 11 years,
goes.
11 months, and 30 days. But yeah.
I thought it was a maximum, depending on succession and the circumstance, 14, because you could serve in the middle and still have those 2 years not cut as part of it or something. I forget what the provision is, but you know, that there's some weird thing, but to a degree, I don't know. 10 years is the number.
You can only be elected twice.
Right.
But if I didn't mean to do that, but
yeah,
there you go. You can only be elected twice.
Live here.
This thing's doing all kinds of weird stuff today.
It is.
You can only be elected twice, but if something were to happen and someone left their presidency the day after they started, technically you could serve that full term and then get elected 2 more times. So
10 years is max according to him, and 2 full terms and half another. That's what I was trying to think of, yeah. So I wasn't entirely sure.
Grumpy's going to have to pay a visit to the library and research this.
We will talk about that one.
Hey, Grumpy, you don't need a library. There's something called Google. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep. All right. Anyway, I'm getting distracted here. Shame on me.
Oh.
Yep. So, I mean, any additional other thoughts? I mean, come on. Honestly, there's got to be more stuff that keeps you awake, John. Come on, think about it.
Well, like I said, my number 1 is Jesus. So what? I don't really worry. I